"Please, don't do that," the shy rancher begged, but the giant widow placed her head on it and Cole hardly had lived years avoiding touch, avoiding eyes, avoiding the memories that made his hands tremble whenever someone got too close. But Mara Rowan, towering and gentle as a mountain, stepped into his life on a night when he was too broken to hide the shaking. He didn't understand why her presence felt like rain on scorched earth, but he knew her leaning on him would make him feel everything he fought to bury. Mara hadn't cried in years, not since the night lightning took her husband and left her a lone widow with nothing but echoes in her house. She came to Cole only to return a lost saddlebag, but seeing him wounded, physically and inside, pulled something fierce and protective out of her. So when he begged her not to rest her head on him, she heard the fear beneath the words, not rejection. She laid her head on his shoulder anyway, grounding him like the earth itself. Cole stiffened, trying to swallow the storm rising inside him. No one touched him since the accident that shattered half his ribs and most of his courage. Everyone treated him like glass, everyone except Mara. Her presence didn't suffocate him, it steadied him. Her breathing matched the rhythm of the wind, and without realizing it, he let his own breath fall into sync. Mara felt him soften, even if he fought it. She felt the hesitation in his body, the way his muscles warred against his heart. She whispered that she wasn't there to fix him, only to sit with him until his world stopped spinning. In that moment, the sky above them seemed larger, the valley quieter, as if granting him permission to feel safe. Cole didn't know how to handle someone choosing him without asking for anything in return. "You don't even know me," he muttered. But Mara only smiled against his shoulder and said she didn't need to. She had eyes, she could see a hurting man from a mile away. That's what widowhood had taught her. Loss recognizes loss. Her words cracked something inside him. He finally let his arm lift, trembling, and rest lightly around her back. It was the first time he initiated a touch in years. Mara didn't comment, didn't shift, she simply stayed, giving him the silence he needed to be brave in small ways. But their quiet moment shattered when a gunshot echoed from the valley floor. Mara flinched, Cole jolted upright. Trouble in Red Valley was nothing new, but on this night, it carried a weight that made Cole's stomach twist. Mara grabbed his wrist, asking him quietly not to run toward danger alone like he always did. He hesitated, torn between the fear of losing the fragile safety he found in her presence and the duty he felt toward his land. Mara sensed his conflict and told him she was coming with him. Her voice held no room for argument. She wasn't letting someone else she cared for walk into danger while she stayed behind. They rode through the dark plains together, wind clawing through their clothes, hooves pounding the earth like war drums. Cole felt strangely steadier with Mara beside him, her size and strength making her look more warrior than widow. He found himself murmuring instructions, trusting her instinctively. When they reached the old barn, smoke curled from the roof. Someone set it ablaze. Cole's herd, his last piece of livelihood, was trapped inside. He froze, flashbacks of his accident paralyzing him. But Mara dismounted in one powerful swing, grabbed an iron bar, and began smashing the locked gate herself. Cole snapped out of his fear and joined her. Together they fought the flames, freeing the terrified cattle until the barn collapsed. Mara pulled Cole out seconds before the beams fell. They landed in the dirt, coughing, her hand gripping his shirt as if refusing to let the world take him too. That night, Cole expected her to leave after the danger passed. But Mara stayed. She sat with him under the moonlight as he stared at the smoking remains of the barn. She told him strength wasn't in the things he built, it was in the things he survived. And he had survived more than most men ever would. Cole finally confessed how his accident stole his confidence, made him hide from everyone, convinced he was a burden. Mara shook her head firmly, cupping his face in her rough, warm hands. She told him he was the only man she'd ever seen who fought his fear with kindness instead of bitterness. Her words ignited something brave in him. For the first time, he lifted his gaze to meet hers without flinching. He told her she made the valley feel less empty. Mara's eyes softened, her breath catching as if she hadn't expected her heart to leap the way it did. Over the next weeks, Mara helped him rebuild, not just the barn, but parts of himself he thought were gone. She didn't let him fade into silence or hide behind routine. She dragged him into town gatherings, made him laugh at her jokes, and always rested her head on his shoulder whenever he grew anxious, reminding him he wasn't alone. Cole, in return, brought warmth back into her life. He fixed her fences, brought her fresh water barrels, and sat with her on her porch during lonely sunsets. They learned each other's pain in a quiet, patient way that turned grief into companionship. But the valley had a habit of testing good things. One stormy night, the river rose fast, threatening Mara's ranch. Cole insisted on helping, even though the rushing water triggered memories of the accident that nearly drowned him. Mara tried to shield him, but he stepped into the flood anyway, this time not running from fear, but toward someone worth facing it for. The river tore at them, but together they reinforced the barrier, saving her land. When the storm finally broke and they collapsed inside her home, drenched and shivering, Mara wrapped a blanket around them both and pulled him close, her head resting naturally on his shoulder again. Cole didn't resist. Instead, he leaned into her, allowing himself to feel how deeply he needed her presence. Mara whispered that she hadn't felt safe with anyone since her husband died, until Cole. He felt her honesty settle in his chest like a warm coal. They grew inseparable after that night. People in town whispered about the widow and the shy rancher, surprised at how natural they looked together. Cole's hands no longer trembled when she touched him. Mara's laughter returned, loud and bright, shaking off years of silence. Finally, on a sunrise morning atop the ridge overlooking the valley, Cole admitted how terrified he once was of touch, until the day she placed her head on his shoulder and didn't let him run. Mara smiled, tears shining like dew, and told him she had placed her head there because she instinctively knew it was where it belonged. Cole took her hand, steady this time, and asked if she would stay in his life, not as the giant widow everyone whispered about, but as the woman who rebuilt him piece by piece. Mara's answer was to lean her head onto his shoulder once more, sealing a promise without a single word. In that moment, the rising sun painted them in gold, and Cole realized he was no longer the man who hid from the world. He was a man who survived loss, found strength in tenderness, and discovered love in the one person who wasn't afraid to stand tall beside him. Together, they headed back down into Red Valley, where their story had begun with fear, shaken breath, and a simple plea. Please, don't do that. But now, Cole silently wished she would always do that, always stay close, always. Rest her head on the place that once trembled, and now held steady because of her.